Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. I know it's been a little while since I've made a video. We have just been enjoying our summer and having a busy summer. We've been doing a lot of things. Hayden's been in 2 different swim classes that consisted of like a 4-week span. And we've just been busy. I've been reading a lot. We've been just doing things as a family. So I haven't been getting up as many videos for you guys, but I promise I will get some videos out to you guys soon. But I did want to kind of do this new thing on my channel that I had talked about. My new hobby has really been reading. I started to get into reading again back in May. I have at different points of my life been a reader, but since becoming a mom, it's just not something I've done for a long time. So it's something I'm really doing again. I am trying to currently read all the Colleen Hoover books. I'm pretty sure I'm at 12 of her books now. I just recently got a couple more back here on my bookshelf. I'm building a bookshelf. I have to show you guys kind of the books on it so far in another video. But I wanted to talk about today a book series that I've started, and I read the first 2. I want this to be something new I do on my channel and do a lot of book content because that's something I'm really into. I hope that some of you guys are into that, or I'll find some new subscribers too to the channel that will want to discuss some books with me. So I hope these are videos that you guys will like. I wanted to talk about today the book Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Guys, I cannot say enough. I finished Binding 13 towards the beginning of the month. I ran immediately out the next morning and got Keeping 13. I just finished Keeping 13 last night, and I have still been so emotional about it today. Like, it was definitely giving me a book hangover. I actually went to a local book like outlet store that we have here, and I got some books today, and I got this really thin, almost like a novella. And I've been reading it today to kind of help me get over the book hangover. But I'm going to make a separate video for Keeping 13. I'm going to do a video about Binding 13 right now. So guys, if you have not read Binding 13 and you're wanting to read it, please click away from this video, because I have wrote down and I have on my phone pulled up some book club questions, some things we can discuss. I really want you guys to leave in the comments your thoughts about the book. If you've read the book, I want to talk about it with you guys. If there's enough like conversation going, I could even make another video to talk about it. I would even love somehow if we could do like a virtual book club or something sometime. Me and my cousin have started our own, but we've still yet to be able to talk about this one yet. We both read this one together. But I wanted to jump in and discuss Binding 13 with you guys. So this is the first book I've read from Chloe Walsh. I have followed her Instagram page, and I see that she has a lot of different books. Some other series, I see a lot of really good reviews about a lot of her other books. I am in love with this series. So in the book, you meet pretty much all of the characters. I know there's going to be different characters as the book goes, I'm sure, but you meet a lot of characters in this book. So I wrote down some of my favorite things. Now, guys, when you start this book, this is a huge book. Like, let me grab another book to show you to kind of compare it. Okay, so if you've not read these yet, I'm holding up Colleen Hoover's book, Confess. I've not read this one yet. But so the size difference, it's considerably bigger. It is a thick book. And honestly, if the book was this size, this book would have like 1,000 pages. Because if you open this up, you can see the print for Colleen's books are bigger. These books have so much on each page. This book, I think, how many pages? This is like 600 and some pages, and Keeping 13 is almost 700. These are big books. And if they were in the form of this book with the small writing, it would easily be 1,000 pages. It is a lot. And this book, it gives you all the feels. It is a heavy read. So I am going to jump into some of the questions. If you guys have not read it, click away now. I don't want to spoil anything for you because this will be full of spoilers. So let's jump into the questions. Okay, so I just wrote some things down and I've got some stuff on my phone. One of the first things was my favorite character. So I definitely can't just say I have a favorite character. Of course, it's Johnny and Shannon, of course. But I love when the book starts out and all through the book, I love the relationship that Shannon has with her brother Joey. I love Joey. Also, I love Gibbsy. I love Claire. There is so many characters in this book. It's hard to pick just one. I found myself in both books wanting there to be so many more things about Gibbsy and Claire. So I can't even just pick a favorite character. It's definitely Johnny and Shannon. I never could pick between the two. Like, I love them both, but Gibbsy and Claire, like, this book, guys, genuinely made me laugh out loud. When I picked this book up, I really thought, what could she write about in a love story with like a rugby romance? What could she really write about that would be that long and continue in this long series? She builds the world like no book I've read before. She gives you all these random details. This is something I love so much about the book. Like some books I've read before, when I read Colleen Hoover's series, Maybe Someday, and it was like kind of circled around a group of friends, it would trail off into these things about the friends and you'd kind of be like, okay, like it would get a little bit boring and you're like, okay, just like, where's this going? I literally would read this book, not even for the romantic aspect of it, but just the friendship. Like, I would read this book just about like the shenanigans that the boys and the friends would get into, the girls, the guys, like their friendships, their like rapport with each other. Gibbsy is hilarious. Like, just his whole, like, he just brings this fun lightness to the book, even though there's things that he really deals with. So I would say, like, it's hard to pick favorite characters because they all bring something to the book that's really special. But I would say definitely Shannon, Johnny, Joey, Claire, and Gibbsy are my favorite characters. The next question I wrote down was, what character do you relate to the most? So I feel like sometimes growing up, like, this book is full of domestic violence, bullying, things like that, some really tough subjects. I think from just things from my childhood, I would say I relate to Shannon, not in like the physical domestic violence stuff, but just how some of her trauma from her childhood really turned her into a people pleaser, that she doesn't speak up for herself. That is something I feel like I do speak up for myself, but I am a people pleaser and will do things that I don't necessarily want to do to make other people happy and comfortable. So I would say I really connect with Shannon and her trying to work through that. Also just kind of feeling out of place. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry, guys, my uncle was calling me. But just kind of feeling out of place in school, just like you were kind of different or just kind of past high school in a way. Like, I feel like Shannon, her life has really made her grow up fast. I feel like I can relate to that in my life, that you almost didn't just like see everything like just the normal high schoolers when you were in high school. So I think I connect with Shannon with that, but I also feel like I connect with Johnny a lot too, with just how protective and how he tries to handle situations. Like, I always feel like I was the friend that wanted to protect all my other friends. And if I ever thought somebody was like picking on them or giving them a hard time, that I would try to intervene or speak up for them. So I feel like I connect with Johnny with that. So I would say a little bit of both with both characters. Next question I wrote down was, how did the book make me feel? So the book took me everywhere. There was times I literally was like having tears in my eyes trying to read it. There were some scenes that were super difficult to read, especially the end of the book, where it left on the big cliffhanger and I had to run out the next morning to get Keeping 13. There was also times where I was just so like, I was laughing, like literally laughing out loud, trying to read the book from just the shenanigans of the friends and just the funny banter. And then also just like falling in love with the characters. Johnny just handled, like, me being 30 years old, they were high schoolers in the book. So reading about some of the things that they were going through when the problem would come up and you'd be like, oh, I hope they handle it this way, or I would handle it this way, Johnny would handle it in the most adult way, like not like a 17-year-old boy. He would seriously handle everything like a man. He just would stand up for what was right. He was just such a man for being a 17-year-old boy in high school. Like, he just handled everything so well. So it would just make me feel, it just made me feel so good. The book, I loved their romance, like as they were falling in love with each other. I loved watching them fall in love with each other. It would make me just feel happy and giddy about that. It would make me laugh like crazy. There was so many funny moments in the book, and then also some really tough things to read. So definitely what I said before with how Chloe was building the world, you feel like these characters, you're learning so much about the characters that like, it's like you physically know them, like you're in their friend group. And I love that she did the best way of explaining everything and going into some of the, I don't know, just watching their friendships, their dynamics. She just builds this world so much more. She gives you all of these details so much more than a lot of books that I've read. And I love that about these books. It makes you feel all the feelings because you feel like you're like in the book with the people, like you're at their high school or in their town. So I love how much detail, like it needed to be as long as it was. It wasn't even long enough, I felt like. So the book gave me all the feelings because she just builds the characters so much. Another thing I love that Shannon, when she went to Tommen, that she had Lizzie and Claire. I love that she had those friendships. They were just so accepting and just loving to her and protective of her immediately, even though they hadn't seen her in a long time. I also loved the relationship that Gibbsy and Johnny had, just the friendships that this book talked about. Like they were just ride or die, like supportive friends. One of my favorite parts from the book, I wrote this down so I didn't forget, was when Shannon was in the hallway, and I think the guy's name was McGarry, was his last name, that played on the rugby team that Johnny had a conflict with from the beginning. When he was trying to hit on Shannon in the hallway and was like trying to pull her into the bathroom, I love that Gibbsy noticed it, saw it, and intervened and like saved Shannon. He was just such a good friend. I love that he called Shannon Little Shannon. It just felt like he was so protective of her. I know another thing I saw a lot of people say on TikTok that they hated how much they talked about Shannon being little. It definitely, like, Shannon was 5 feet tall. And to me, I'm 5'8". So that is short. Like Johnny is like 6'3", 6'4". So yeah, that is short because 5 feet to me is short and I'm 5'8". But it wasn't like that crazy short. Like I've had friends that are 5 feet tall and it's not that crazy short when they were like, oh, she couldn't get up on the bar stool or she was so tiny. Like, yeah, she was tiny, but like she wasn't like a child size, you know? So I saw a lot of people say that. That didn't really bother me. I think they were just really trying to like show you how malnourished and like how, the kids just didn't have proper care and she wasn't like developing like teens, like other girls her age. So I think it was something they kind of tie together in Keeping 13. I think she was really trying to just build that in your mind about how Shannon was just really not cared for. So I think that that's kind of where she was going with that. Another thing, like when something, and because it takes them so long to end up being together through the whole book. Like, oh my gosh, like she kisses him 2 different times and he doesn't kiss her back. And you're like, oh my gosh, like sometimes you just want to like yell at them and be like, talk to each other. But then at the same time, they had this really healthy dynamic of like their relationship, especially Johnny, like he was like forcing her to open up to him. And I loved that. But I think like how Johnny was so weird about their age difference, and she was like 16 and he was 17. They're at the same school together. So I think like when he kept putting off their relationship because of age, I kept thinking like, you know, it's not like he's like 22 and she's 16. Like, you know, that would clearly be so wrong. But they weren't like Gibbsy kept telling him it's not that big of an age difference. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm glad that it finally got past that and they kind of move on from that. But it takes so long. Like there's all these sweet moments. I wouldn't change anything about the book. Like I love how Johnny wasn't pressuring to her. He let her move at her own pace. But there was so many times I wanted them to just be together, and like he would just keep putting it off and saying, she was too young or different things. So yeah, I was happy when they kind of got over that hump. I know one question I got from some book club questions on Pinterest. I thought this was a good one. Did the setting of the book add to the overall experience? Why or why not? It definitely added to the experience for me because being from the United States, like our biggest sport in the United States, even though mine is baseball, is definitely football. So being in like their country in Ireland and seeing like it being rugby where they're from and just the different dynamic. Like I loved the Irish names. A lot of the like sayings that they were talking about, like how she has a part in the book, like in the front where she like kind of like tells you what their slang or what different things are and what they mean. I loved that. I thought it just brought a different dynamic. I've personally never read a book that you knew didn't take place in like the United States. Like even if the book didn't say its exact location, everything about it was just like, oh, like I bet this is in like Florida or something. So yeah, I love that it's in a different place. I love that they like have accents through the books with the things they say. I love that. I felt like it was so amusing. I've actually looked up so many more things about rugby, and with the Olympics going on, I've actually followed one of the Olympic female rugby players. So it's actually like turned me on to wanting to know rugby. I played softball my whole childhood, and I wish now reading it and watching the girl from the Olympics that I've been watching, I so wish rugby would have been a thing in my area, and because I think I would have loved to have played it. So I thought that was really cool. I think it added to the story for me. It made me interested just to see their dynamic. They can drink legally at 18, where in the United States it's 21, and just the different dynamic. I personally thought it added to the book a lot. Another one, I thought this was good. Did the pacing of the story feel right to you, or were there parts that felt too slow or too rushed? That was the thing that I was saying, like, even though them getting together finally at the very end of the book, I never felt like it felt too slow. Yes, I wanted them to be together and figure out their relationship, but I think everything in the book had to take the time that it did. So I don't think it was too slow. I liked it how it happened. I literally would have read about their friendships, like even minus the relationship. I would have just kept reading about their friendships because I just loved the dynamic of the book. So no, I don't think it was too slow. I definitely don't think it was too fast paced. Like Chloe explained, like she went into so much detail, which is why I think the books are so long, because she truly wants you to feel like in their world. So no, I don't think it was too fast, and I don't think it was too slow at all. I think we needed to be able to connect with their world and the characters. I think that's why so many people I see online are like, this is my favorite book couple. I'm never moving on from this book. These books definitely gave me a book hangover, because I'm like, there's no book as good as this book. Like it's perfect. The way they handle everything, their relationship, like could there be a better book boyfriend? Like Johnny is the best book boyfriend. So I love how she did this. I think she had to go slow to really get you in their world, to explain everything and get you to feel so deeply for the characters. So no, I think the pace was really good. Well, guys, that's kind of all that I can think about right now, just that I wanted to go over. There's so much in this book. Like, gosh, I've read Keeping 13 since then. So I feel like sometimes if I don't talk about the book right away, it kind of starts to blend together with Keeping 13. So I'm like, what was in this book? What was in that book? So I loved the book. I literally give it a 5-star. If I was rating it out of a 10, I would rate it 100. I seriously think that everybody needs to read this book. I honestly, though, as much as I loved this book, I think Keeping 13 is even better. Normally, I feel like the first book's better. I feel like the second book is even better because you actually get to watch their relationship. So it literally, if you guys, because I don't want to talk too much about this one in case you haven't read this, I'll make a separate video for this one, but it literally picks up exactly where this one leaves off. So if you're reading this, like I made the mistake of reading this at night and finishing it and not knowing that I really needed to have this one, it literally ends on a cliffhanger and this one picks up exactly where it left off. So my recommendation for you is to, when you have this one and you're finishing it to make sure you have Keeping 13. But yeah, tell me guys what you think about it. I love how they ended up getting together at the end. I hate that Johnny wouldn't talk about his injury and then it resulted in him having to get surgery. But I loved the little bus ride that they went on going to the game and how he wanted to talk to her after the game, even though things went south. I just loved this book. He was the best book boyfriend. There is tough things about it, the bullying aspect, the domestic violence aspect especially. But I loved the book. It was so good. So please let me know in the comments what you guys thought about Binding 13. I have not read Joey's 2 books and then Gibbsy's book. I've heard that there's going to be like a book for, I think, Katie, Lizzie, and then Adoring 13 is going to be the last book I've heard people say. I kind of wish, though, that they would make a book about Johnny's parents. You find out a lot more about Johnny's parents in Keeping 13, and I kind of wish they would make a book about them. I wish, too, there would be even another book about Gibbsy and Claire, even though I haven't read that one yet. So, yeah, guys, let me know in the comments what you think, and let me know if you would like more of these kinds of videos. And thank you guys so much for watching.